All right, well, we've gotten a lot of questions. You guys have asked us on Twitter and Facebook about the differences between Disney World and Disneyland. So here are the answers to those questions.
And just kind of like how we feel about like Disneyland versus Disney World. So first off, we'll start with fast passes and our feelings about Disneyland versus Disney World.
Well, the primary difference is Disneyland, at least as of this video, is still on the paper fast passes. So you don't have a magic band, you don't book them in advance. So it favors people who get to the parks early and who know where they're gonna go, which Brittany is really good at.
Yeah, so I forgot how much I liked paper fast passes until I went back out to Disneyland and we were like really racking them up. So I actually think I prefer the paper fast pass method, but people who like to sleep in probably don't like it as much. So, I mean, I really like it, but that's just me.
Yeah, we got to use a lot of them. So just do your research on the fast passes ahead of time.
Yeah. So anyway, about the rides and stuff out there, why don't you tell one of your more favorite rides out of Disneyland first?
Probably one of the ones that was good that has a Disney World equivalent was Peter Pan. They are not the same.
Yeah.
They're very similar, but there is a difference to it. It was really fun.
The Peter Pan in Disneyland had like more lights and lighting effects to it or whatnot, so I just thought it was really cool. Like it was a lot different from the one at Disney World. I mean, obviously we love the one at Disney World. Peter Pan ride at Disneyland wins, Disney World queue wins hands down. One of the rides that I really liked a whole lot better was Big Thunder Mountain, and I must say to you, Disney World, because no, that's terrible. Why didn't you do what Disneyland did? You had the opportunity. You ruined it. But anyway, Big Thunder is so much better. The ending.
There's lots of explosions and lights. And
just go watch our videos. You'll see it.
We wrote it like 6 times, so pretty much watch any Disneyland vlog. We probably wrote it.
Okay, continuing on. You liked this one, but I didn't really care for it as much. I mean, I thought it was cool. I liked the overlay.
I liked Hyperspace Mountain with the Star Wars overlay. Probably what I liked a lot about that, not only was it Star Wars, but I liked the fact that the trains were different. You sat side by side. It wasn't back to back to back.
I like having my own space.
Well, you had your own space. It's just next to me.
Well, one of the other rides that I really like, and I know a lot of people compare it to Test Track, but it's not really the same thing. But if I had to pick Test Track or Radiator Springs Racers, I would totally pick Radiator Springs. I mean, it was worth going to Disneyland just to go on that ride. Like that just totally made it worth it. So it was amazing, highly recommend. And then the very last one, its Disney World equivalent is not nearly as cool as Disneyland equivalent because it had all sorts of Disney characters interlaced throughout, which was just amazing.
And it has a song you love.
We all love.
It's a Small World at Disney. We only did the one at Disneyland as like an afterthought. And we went over and did it, and there were characters, there's Disney characters in every setting.
And we had no idea, and we thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And especially like, this was the one time when I liked the queue being, or like part of the ride being outside, because you like got to
you had your boat outside and then it tunneled you inside. You came back outside. It was fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Highly recommend doing it.
Battery change.
Had to change a battery real quick. But there were some other rides that we would say we prefer the Disney World versions of.
Which was Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain at Disneyland was, I did not like it. I would not do it again. Did not like it.
No, it's actually, it flips from Space Mountain. So Disney World, you sit side by side in Splash and then front to back.
Yeah.
Flip that around in Disneyland, so you sit single
file,
back to back. And it also went really fast. Like you couldn't really see anything. You flew through it.
Yeah, you flew through everything. So I did not enjoy it. All right, some of the rides though that were kind of, the Little Mermaid ride under the sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid, whatever it's called at Walt Disney World, was the exact same carbon copy as it was at Disneyland. So, I mean, it was all right. I was glad that we did it. Except for they had different color shells.
That's the only difference.
Yeah. And then Haunted Mansion was pretty close to the same, and as was Winnie the Pooh. We liked them all. I mean, they were great.
Fun. It was good to do one like a little different.
If you're trying to like skip carbon copies, I would skip those. Unless if you go when it's Haunted Mansion Holiday, because then they put a whole overlay on the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, which is completely different. What about the nighttime shows?
We did Paint the Night. It was probably one of our favorites.
Yeah, Paint the Night was the best Disney parade I think I've ever seen in my life.
It was like the electrical parade on steroids.
Yeah, basically that's awesome. The best way to describe it. And then we saw World of Color,
which was really pretty.
But it was like a special World of Color. It's not like the regular World of Color show I've since found out. Thank you, Disco Liz. it was like special to Walt, which is really cool because it like put in a lot of Walt in it, and there was a lot of Neil Patrick Harris narrating and stuff. So I guess it was like a special Disneyland Diamond Celebration one, and it was cool. And then we saw Disneyland Forever, which was also specific to Disneyland 60th anniversary. And I mean, it was okay. It's not like, it didn't give me the feels like Wishes did, so. But I mean, if you're there, go and see it, obviously. All right, what are the disadvantages to Disneyland?
Probably the first one that's most obvious is the hotel accommodations. There are some on-site hotels at Disneyland, but they only have deluxe. So there's nothing, there's no value resorts at Disneyland.
And we stayed at a dump.
And we stayed off.
Even if it says Good Neighbor Disneyland Hotel or Disney Hotel, whatever, no. Go to DLRprepschool.com. Casey, take her recommendations, because I did not take her recommendation on a hotel and it was bad.
There's a reason in our Disneyland vlogs we didn't really vlog.
Yeah. So anyway, another disadvantage to Disneyland is it's not as big. So if you're not somebody that likes to go and redo things over and over and over again, you're probably gonna get pretty bored pretty quick. I mean, there's still a lot to do, but like if you don't like being in the same place, like Disney World has 4 parks and 2 water parks in downtown Disney. You know, Disneyland has a little downtown Disney, or I guess, excuse me, Disney World is Disney Springs, but Disneyland has a little downtown Disney and then the 2 parks, but they're not, it's not as big as Disney World.
Yeah, we were in the parks for basically, what, 2.5 days total and did everything.
Yeah, it felt like the perfect amount of time to do what we wanted to do without it getting like too repetitive.
It feels like ideally if you had like one day in one park, one day in the next park, and then a park hopper to kind of like fill in the gaps. That
for the
would
next day.
That would be plenty.
Yeah. So anyway, another disadvantage too is that a lot of the lines at Disneyland are really boring. It's just like outside and it's ropes, which really promoted a lot of line skipping, and it's hard for them to control, and that was like the worst to us. That was probably my least favorite thing about Disneyland were the outside lines. Like, I did not like it.
There was nothing interactive, and you know, the weather was nice, but if it was a rainy day, it'd be miserable.
Yeah, well, they don't get a lot of those in Southern California, so. Also, Disneyland wasn't as immersive as Disney World is, just because you have to like drive through the city to get there. Which, I mean, you have to drive through the city to get to Orlando, but like literally when you go out of the parking lot, there's city. At Magic Kingdom, you go out of the parking lot and you're like on Disney World property.
There's not like a Disney bubble like there is in Orlando.
Yeah, not quite like that. What about airport transportation?
There is transport from the airport to the Disneyland or the Good Resort hotels, but it costs you extra money.
So there's no free transport, which is a huge downside to it.
Usually by the time you would have paid that, and depending on the length of your trip, you could have just rented a car and driven yourself.
Yeah. And there weren't as many like pop-up magical moments I feel like we experienced at Disney World. The cast members just were a little bit different out there. I mean, not that they weren't nice, but they just didn't feel, they weren't Jeff.
The cast members felt more like high schoolers with a summer job than kind of the more like immersive Disney World where it's like Disney is my life kind of cast member, you know? But
the huge advantages to Disneyland are that it was very classic. It was very, you could tell, like, you could feel Walt's presence there, and it was great, and it's really easy to do in a small amount of time.
Brittany said cute and quaint probably 1,000 times.
Yeah, cute and quaint, especially about the castle. But anyways,
itty bitty.
We say if you get the chance, go to Disneyland. We loved it. We want to go back.
A blast.
I mean, it's not like Disney World, but you can't really compare them because they're so different. So just go. We give it 2 thumbs up. Brian, give it 4 thumbs up. Okay.